You won't believe this. The HOA president called the cops on me because her so-called master key couldn't open my Mustang. She stood in my driveway, scratching my car, screaming about federal safety protocols. And when the officers showed up, she had no idea my little brother is the county sheriff. That's when her entire empire of lies started crumbling. Act 1. The conflict sparks. I'll start from the beginning. 6 months ago, after a rough divorce, I moved into Sunset Grove, a quiet little neighborhood that looked perfect for starting over. Fresh lawns, neat mailboxes, the kind of place where kids ride bikes and retirees water their gardens in the morning. But there was one problem: the HOA. More specifically, Cheryl Morrison, the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood. Late 50s blonde hair that didn't quite match her roots, always strutting around with a laminated president badge swinging from her neck. And of course that brass key she carried like it was Excalibur. That Saturday morning, the sun was out, I was washing my midnight blue Mustang in the driveway. For a few minutes it actually felt like life was settling down again. Then I heard the click of heels on concrete. "Good morning, Ethan," she announced, holding up that brass key like it was a holy relic. "Time for your mandatory vehicle compliance inspection." I just stared at her. Vehicle compliance inspection. She didn't miss a beat. This master key opens every lock in Sunset Grove. Emergency Access Safety Verification Fire Hazard Prevention Standard HOA Protocol. And then before I could even respond, she jammed the key into my Mustang's lock. Metal scraped against paint. My stomach turned as I watched her grind that antique thing against the door, convinced it was supposed to work. "Cheryl, stop. That's my car, you're scratching it." I tried to stay calm the way my brother Ben always told me to handle confrontations. But Cheryl wasn't hearing me. She waved her badge, eyes blazing with the kind of authority only someone drunk on power could believe in. "You're hiding something. Modified locks are a violation. This inspection is mandatory." Neighbors started peeking out. Mrs. Patterson sipped coffee on her porch. 2 joggers slowed down. Even Catherine from across the street turned off her hose just to watch. Cheryl thrived on that attention. Her voice got louder, her hands more dramatic. That was the first time I pulled out my phone and hit record. Act 2. Escalation and the turning point. When the key didn't work, because of course it didn't, Cheryl doubled down. "This lock has been tampered with. You're endangering community safety." And then, unbelievably, she dialed 911, right there in my driveway. "Yes, dispatcher, this resident is refusing emergency access compliance. He's threatening me with recording equipment. Send officers immediately." I almost laughed until I realized she was dead serious. Minutes later, 2 patrol cars rolled up. Officer Martinez listened to her frantic story about federal safety codes. She pulled out a thick manila folder stuffed with papers stamped with fake seals, fake signatures, fake everything. She spread them across my hood like it was a crime scene. Martinez frowned, flipping through the documents. "Mr. Bell, these appear to show legitimate fire safety requirements. Why won't you comply?" I pulled up the actual HOA bylaws on my phone straight from the county clerk's site. Because there is nothing in our governing documents about vehicle inspections or master keys. This is made-up nonsense. Still, for a while, it was my word against hers. And Cheryl was scary good at lying with confidence. That night I found a violation notice taped to my garage. Vehicle non-compliance. $375 due. And it didn't stop there. She went door to door spreading her story. "Ethan's Mustang is a security risk. He's blocking emergency services. He's violating federal mandates." Some neighbors believed her. Others avoided eye contact. The next week, county departments started calling me building safety crisis management, even environmental protection. Each had received complaints about me tampering with emergency access. I was juggling work, answering bogus investigators, and trying to keep my sanity. One night I sat at my kitchen table staring at a stack of notices. My boss had already asked about the police cars in my driveway. My neighbors whispered behind my back. And for a moment I thought, maybe I should just pay. Fake the inspection, hand her the money and move on. Was it really worth destroying my peace over a principle? That's when Margaret knocked on my door. She's 70, walks with a cane, but her mind is sharp as ever. She slid a folder onto my table, original HOA documents from 20 years ago. No master keys, no emergency access. She's lying, Ethan. Always has been. And then Catherine, the retired teacher, showed up with her laptop. She'd been documenting Cheryl for months, photos, timestamps, even videos of her trying to break into neighbors' cars when they weren't home. That was the turning point. It wasn't just about me anymore. Cheryl was running a scam, systematic fraud, intimidation, extortion. Some families had already paid her hundreds just to avoid trouble. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting, and I sure as hell wasn't alone. Act 3. The Showdown. The following Thursday, Cheryl called an emergency safety meeting. When I walked into the community center, I barely recognized it. She'd turned it into a courtroom projector, giant photos of my Mustang, even a little American flag up front. Neighbors filled every chair. Tonight, she declared we address a resident's refusal to comply with federal safety protocols that protect all our families. She clicked through slides of disasters, fires, floods, evacuation delays, using fear like a weapon. Some nodded along. Others shifted uncomfortably. When she paused for breath, I stood. Cheryl, I've already confirmed with the state fire marshal there is no such designation, no federal safety protocol. This is fiction. Murmurs rippled through the room. Margaret raised her voice from the back. I was on the first HOA board 20 years ago. There was never a master key system. Never. Cheryl's mask cracked, but she pushed harder. If you won't believe me, maybe you'll believe the county sheriff. He's on his way right now. For a second, my stomach dropped. And then it hit me. My brother Ben was on duty that night. When his patrol car pulled up, Cheryl beamed like she'd won. Finally, real authority, she whispered. Ben stepped out in full uniform, clipboard in hand, scanning the tense crowd. He introduced himself calm and professional. Then he turned to Cheryl. Ma'am, you claim federal authority. Please demonstrate this emergency access procedure on the vehicle in question so I can document it. My heart was pounding. Every neighbor leaned forward. Catherine raised her phone to record. Margaret clutched her cane, whispering, "Here it comes." Cheryl strutted to my Mustang brass key raised high. "Watch closely. This is federal protocol." She shoved it into the lock. It didn't fit. She twisted harder. Metal screeched against paint. Sweat dripped down her forehead. Ben wrote in his notepad, "Ma'am, what I'm observing appears to be attempted forced entry into private property, not emergency access." Gasps spread through the crowd. Cheryl grew frantic, jiggling the key, muttering excuses about tampered compliance systems. But everyone could see it, the emperor had no clothes. She wasn't a protector. She was a con artist caught red-handed. Ben stepped forward, voice carrying over the stunned silence. "Neighbors, what you've witnessed tonight is fraud, impersonation of federal authority, filing false reports, and attempted breaking and entering." And then he added the bombshell. "For full transparency, Ethan is my brother. That's why I've stayed detached. But family or not, what Cheryl has done here is criminal." The air went electric. Neighbors whispered, some in shock, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Cheryl's face went pale, then flushed crimson. Ben closed his notepad. "Mrs. Morrison, you are being cited for fraud, impersonation, and attempted property damage. Additional charges may follow." Catherine's phone captured every second. Margaret's notes recorded every word. And Cheryl, our HOA president, our self-appointed queen, stood frozen, brass key trembling in her hand as her empire collapsed around her. Closing line. That night, I learned something simple. The louder someone waves fake authority in your face, the more important it is to stand your ground and know your rights.